It's time for another building challenge, and to be honest, I'm really scared for this one. Behind me, I have a collection of what I think are the worst blocks in Minecraft, and we're going to be using this space over here to see what we can do with them. So what blocks do we have? Well, first off, we've got Diorite. Everyone knows that it's a bad block. I personally think it's pretty good, but I don't know. Then we have Acacia Wood, and this is for all different types of acacia except for the logs. We've got coarse dirt, not necessarily for terraforming, but I actually have to include it in the build. Birch logs, this is just the logs, that goes for the next two as well. The crimson and warped logs, I have to figure out a way to use those as well, I guess. We got sponge, clay, the crimson and warped, what is it called? Nylium? I guess. Soul soil and soul sand, netherrack, purpur, the red mushroom block, and I'm not allowed to use the weird form of it where you put it on a block and it becomes better looking, I guess. Melon block and pumpkin block, mycelium, the crimson and warped nether wart blocks, are they? Yeah. Emerald block, dried kelp block, crying obsidian, honeycomb block, the honey block 2, the slime block, all glazed terracotta, but especially the magenta, and all coral types. So this is what we're dealing with, and now I guess it's time to see what I can do with this. Well, I guess without further ado, it's time to start building, and we're actually going to do this whole build in a big time lapse and voice over it, so you guys don't have to go through the pain of figuring out what to do. So here we are, starting off the build, and as you can see, I'm just doing a little basic layout here, and at this point, I'm just trying to figure out what works, so I decided on using like clay and diorite and the birch logs at first, and I actually really liked this combination. So as you'll see throughout the build, I continue to use this a lot. And then here I'm just using a bit more block variety, introducing acacia wood, which we're also going to use a lot. Yeah, at this point, still on the main structure of this whole thing, but I'm starting to lay out how we're going to go about like the future plans of this whole thing. And as you can see, I kind of do like 3 circles, which are eventually going to become towers. At this point, I'm starting to figure out what I want to do, and what I want to do is have these 3 towers, one big one in the middle, and have them sort of with domed roofs. And I think that way, I can incorporate a lot of different color into the roofs and into the build in general, and use a lot of the blocks that I have to offer. So for the big roof, I actually decided to make it kind of indent outward a little bit, and I was initially kind of worried that this shape wouldn't really work out, but it actually turned out really cool. As you can see here, it kind of just looks like an ice cream cone. But yeah, in the future, it does work out. Here we go. The first details I'm starting to add here are coming in, and I included these melon blocks here actually. I really was unsure about this color, but in the end, it actually looked very nice, I feel like. And I ended up, actually, you'll probably see in a second, I put emerald blocks behind the trapdoors. Yeah, you can see it there. And that actually added a nice pop of color, and that used a fair amount of blocks from our list. And then as you can see here, I'm starting to basically just figure out what I'm gonna do for some of the bigger towers coming up. And similar block palette. Just trying to see what I want to do with the pillars and the other accent blocks and then the background blocks. And then here I start working on the roof itself, where as you can see I first start out by just placing down a bunch of pumpkins. And I do this because I just want to get the shape in. But then I go over with honeycomb and then eventually honey blocks, just to get a little bit of variety and use some more of these on our list that we need to get out of the way. Yeah, just adding a little bit more detail here and there, and with that, I think we're just about ready to start work on the main big tower. Which, in a second, I think I'll start here. Yeah, there it is. So, in this build, it's pretty similar at first. Once we get near the top is where it kind of gets a little bit different. And then here I actually tried something a little bit different too, with adding sort of sponges in the middle just because I didn't really know what to do with them otherwise, and when you don't know what to do with something, it works as like a little bit of an accent block, just pretty much anywhere. So I decided to go do that. As you can see at the top, it's starting to come into view a little bit. I decided to kind of alternate between crimson and warped stems there. And yeah, it's really hard to see right now, but eventually it'll come into view, and I actually really like how this part in general turned out. You might be able to tell that we don't really have a ton of detail going in yet. I'm basically just putting in the main, like, diorite foundation. I'll mix in the birch logs later. I actually did that right now, right as I was saying that. Perfect timing. But, yeah, just adding a little bit of detail here and there. Just seeing what I can do, what works, and surprisingly, most of the stuff I tried worked out pretty well. And then I got the idea to sort of do, like, a little bit of a crown shape with the acacia at the top. And I did it with 2 of them. I liked how it looked, so I was committed, and we're gonna eventually do that all the way around. But now we are going to do this second domed roof, which, as you can see, it was initially pink, but I swapped it out for the crimson stems, just because I had more blocks to play with that are red. And since this was a bigger roof, I could kind of play with a lot more. As you can see there, I initially put some mushroom blocks at the top, but then I didn't like it. It kind of looked like ketchup pouring down, so I made them as little circles instead, and that turned out a lot better. But that's besides the point. You might be able to tell from this angle now that we are nowhere near as done as you might have thought. We still have the entire back. So this part's a little bit more boring, just basically repeating what I had everywhere else, but it's very necessary, and actually, this made the difference in the end. This made it look a lot better, it gave it a ton more depth, and it made me a lot more proud of what I had done thus far. Also, we're kind of getting a lot of blocks out of the way at this point. We're, I believe, over halfway with the different blocks at this point. I think at the end I sort of cram a bunch because I was missing a few. I actually don't know at this point if I did get all of them, but we'll see. But as you can see here, I'm just doing the roof on the other side now, getting those parts of like the crown shape that I was talking about earlier. And yeah, this tower is pretty much done now. We just have to add a little bit more detail, and then I do add a few more of the spot shapes as well. But, oh yeah, there's also the bottom of this part, which I wasn't showing until now, that also isn't done. So we're just going to do that in a second here, just the same shape as we've been doing all around, and then kind of connecting it to the floor. And I actually do use clay at the bottom here too, which I only was using near the ground, because I kind of like doing that near the ground, using a different block, because it adds a little bit more sort of life-like realism to the build, in that it's close to the ground, it should be more weathered there. So then with that tower done, we just have this final little small tower, and this one wasn't a ton of work to do. We just very quickly finished that shape over there, and then we actually took a break from the roof of the tower to put these trees in, just to get a few more blocks out of the way. And then we switched this roof over to pink, and then did that in the glazed terracotta, which didn't look too good from close up, but it actually worked fairly well from far away. I also decided to go and add 2 different types of coral into this roof, and then at the top I did some purple blocks. I have to say, this thing is looking way better than I initially thought it would. I mean, with these things over here, you would have expected it to not look that good, but I think I managed to do pretty well here. And I think I used most, if not all, of the blocks. I was actually super surprised by this, but we're going to check in a second just to make sure, and you guys will see where I used all of these. And we're actually going to do that right now, just so that I can make sure. So, what I'm going to do is grab some glass, and we are going to, once this is finished, once I know I have it in, I'm going to mark it down. We know I have diorite, so we're going to mark that down. This, acacia wood. Also, yes, I have that everywhere. Coarse dirt. You may not have seen this, but I did place it. It is in here. I put it in the wall a little bit, and it kind of blends in with the soul sand, soul soil a little bit. I did also include, yeah, soul sand and soil, so wherever those are. They're right here. Let's mark down those. Birch logs, also everywhere. I really did not like to use these because I don't like birch logs. I think they're ugly. But, I mean, I had to use them somewhere, and I guess they work okay here-ish. I would have much preferred using, like, white concrete in place of them. But, of course, we can't do that. All of this nether material is actually in all different places. The crimson roots, all of this crimson stuff is actually in the same spot. It's all up on this roof. As you can see, I kind of did a little bit of a gradient here. So we've got the stems, whatever they're called. I don't know what a lot of these nether blocks are called exactly, but I'll basically say what I think they're called. These are nether warts. We used a few of them here. The nylium is up here a little bit. And then we also actually have netherrack down here, and then the red mushroom block as little spots. So we can mark all these ones off. And as for the warped ones, I kind of use these around here as sort of like a grass replacement because I couldn't actually use grass. But just to kind of add a little bit of foliage over here. And we've got a few little warped trees. I also put in crying obsidian and dried kelp on the stems because I didn't have anywhere else to put them, and I thought this would actually look pretty good, and it turns out it actually did look pretty good. So I'm not complaining at all. So that's these 5 that we can knock out. Also mycelium, because that was on the ground over there as well. On this pink roof over here, we've got various coral, the magenta glazed terracotta, and purple. And you can actually hear inside, I did have to flood this whole thing with water so that I could actually place the coral and it wouldn't dry up. Because if it did dry up, that would technically be cheating. Not really, because I make the rules myself, but I didn't want to use the dried version because that actually looks pretty good. And I wanted to restrict myself to using the bad blocks only. That's this, and this out of the way. And at this point, we don't have that much left. We have clay, which I used down at the bottom as sort of a gradient with that. I actually really like that. I didn't realize that was a thing until now, and I'm probably going to be using this a little bit more. The sponge, I didn't really know what to do with, so I put it as a little bit of an indent. Just, I guess, bright color sticking out from the inside of there. We get a lot of bright colors around this whole thing, so I think it actually works pretty well there. The melon blocks, of course, we also have as a sort of pillar block. I at first didn't really know if that would work, but I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out. It actually goes really well with the orange, I feel like. And we also have the emerald block tucked behind these acacia trapdoors, and that actually looks really nice with the sort of crossing of these pillars. So that only leaves 4 left, and the slime block, I actually didn't use this until the last second, but I did put it as sort of like a window replacement because we don't actually have any glass to work with. So I did the next best thing, and that actually works pretty well. Since I have shaders on, you can't really actually see through it, but that's okay because we don't have an interior anyway. And then these final 3 we used in this roof over here. So yeah, we did end up using every single one, which I'm actually very surprised about. At first, before I started, I was like, maybe I'll use half of them, but I had no clue I was going to be able to use all of these. I feel like since I really got into like a creative mindset with how I could use some of these, it made it a lot easier to use more of them in more interesting ways and kind of, yeah, be able to use all of these despite the fact they don't really seem like they go together. But yeah, with that, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And in the comments down below, suggest any other build challenges rather, you'd like me to do. Because I kind of want to do more like building challenge videos. They're pretty fun. So yeah, in the comments, give me more suggestions. And other than that, thank you for watching, and goodbye.